Hello, Flosstube. How you doing? Julicious here, Julia, coming to you for my first Flosstube video of 2019. It's February 2nd. It is Saturday. And I am just going to take a few minutes here to go through what I've done over the last month and a little bit before I hit the books again, because I have my first anatomy exam on Tuesday. So I hope you're all well. I hope the year's been treating y'all okay. If you're in the US and you're a government worker, I hope you're back to work and that there are plans to give you your back pay. If you're not in the US, what's it like to have a government run by adults? I forget what that's like. Would you tell me? And also, what's the immigration policy in your country like? Oh, cold coffee, my favorite thing in the world. Ugh. I'll cope. So, interesting thing, I had 4 weeks off from school, and so I decided I was going to do all the things. I was going to read all the things, and I was going to knit all the things, and stitch all the things, and spin all the things, and I did work on all the things, so much so that I had to take a week off because I gave myself a repetitive strain injury in my wrist. It's because I'm a thrower when I knit, and hang on. Sorry about that. Yes, we do still have a landline phone. I kind of feel like it's safer to have cell phones and a landline. Just don't judge me. What was I saying? Yeah, I got a repetitive strain injury from crafting too much in my wrist. I'm a thrower when I knit, and also I don't have a stand for my cross stitch, so I can't do two-handed stitching. And I'm right-handed, so there's a lot of like coming up and then moving under, and there's a lot of twisty wrist stuff. Spinning, it wasn't too bad. I do the inchworm method because I'm basic, and but yeah, that didn't really aggravate things. But yeah, I had a sore wrist and it was very annoying, but that meant I got more reading done. So yeah, that's kind of all that's going on here. It's very cold in my area of the Northeast. It is not as cold as it is in the American Midwest. It's not as cold as it is even an hour north of me. We're hanging in here in Philadelphia. Say what you will about Philadelphia, we take care of our homeless people most of the time. Places where it's not legal for them to sleep, most of the days of the year, it is legal for them to sleep there in really frigid temperatures. So most of the winter, our homeless residents have someplace warm to sleep. So there's that. And depending on where you are in Philadelphia, a lot of churches, and this is year-round, not just in winter, a lot of churches kind of play hot potato with who hosts a free community dinner on any given day of the week. So they kind of rotate, which is nice. It's the least I can do. I'm not a big fan of organized religion, but cheers to that. Anyway, stay warm. Don't mess around with dangerously low temperatures. Don't mess around with dangerously high temperatures either. stay hydrated, wear wool, and don't go outside. That's my blanket advice for people who are experiencing the wrath of climate change right now. Stay hydrated and don't go outside if you can avoid it. Anyway, should we get into what you're here for? I think so. Stitching. So I worked on 4 of my stitching projects. So I'm doing no new start, mostly no new starts. In March, I'm participating in the goat load sale. And then for my birthday, I'm gonna have a new start. And I still need to talk to Garrett about that, but that's neither here nor there. So let's see, I gave the gamer a week because my plan is to give the gamer at least 5 days a month. So that's what she's gonna look like. And the next time I work on her, I'm hoping to have a page finish. So you can kind of see the 3rd page. I'm working on page 3, and the last time you saw this, there was just some gray right here. So I worked the gray, I'm working the diagonal so you can see the banner. Lots of confetti in that banner. It doesn't look like there are, even here, it doesn't look like there are lots of beige shaded, beige colored flosses. There are. So I find that I have to be in a mood to do full coverage, and that mood isn't necessarily I want to stitch full coverage. That mood is I want my crafting to be more of an intellectual pursuit than it normally is, because I don't do cross country, I do parking and I work in blocks. And so I have to be willing and in the mood to kind of stare at the pattern and try to figure out which color to use first, like what order to stitch the colors in any given block, like what the most logical and easiest way to do that would be. And so it's kind of a puzzle for me anyway. And when I'm in the sort of mood where I like that, I love it and don't want to put it down. So the gamer got 5 days. I think that was the 2nd week in January. The 1st week in January, excuse me, I pulled out one of the things I want to focus on finishing this year, which is Prairie Moon's The Red and the Black 1. And I started working on it, and I thought, you know what? I am so close to being done. This is going to be my focus for a finish. I'm going to work on this, and I'm going to work on the gamer in February until this is done, and then I can switch. So let me show you. I haven't taken it off the Q-snap, but you can see. Like I'm on the bottom row. Finish all the black, fill in the red, and then that will be done. So happy about that. I'm stitching this on a 32, it's on the called for fabrics. This is a 32 count Lakeside linen in vintage autumn gold, and I am stitching this with Anchor Black and DMC 321 is the red. So yay. The next time you see this, it will be done. So that's cool. And then I just picked up, sitting at my desk, if I was doing something on the computer or talking to people, on Skype or FaceTime or what have you, I would just pick up one of my littler projects to work on. So I ended up working on a Mill Hill Buttons and Beads kit I started last year because Lisa Bergen made me. No, she didn't. She just enabled me. Moonlit Kitties, because kitties and pumpkins. You've seen this before. I don't think I had. I think the last time you saw this, I had the kitties done. So, progress. Working on some green right now. I'm thinking when this is done, I might just go the easiest route possible and actually buy one of the Mill Hill frames, just because, why not? And then the last thing I stitched on was Curse of the Raven by Carriage House Samplings. I think most of you have seen, most of you are familiar with this pattern. I'm stitching this on 40 count linen that I dyed myself with coffee. For the most part, I'm stitching this in hand because I started it in hand and then it's working for me. I might put it in a hoop or a small Q-snap later, but for now, it's doing okay. So I am stitching this mostly with the called for colors. I don't have the variegated floss for the actual body of the tombstone, which is taupe from Weeks Dye Works. So I think taupe's the only one I don't have. There it is. I forget where I got this needle minder. Minding my minders, maybe? A little skull cameo. Anyway, so that's fun. I know there's a companion piece to this, and I forget who the designer is. I don't think it's in print any longer, which is kind of a bummer, because there's only so much I'm willing to pay for a pattern. Oh well. Such is the way of things. Yeah, so that's the stitching I got done. I did work on some knitting. I finally started the Calaveras shawl, which is the first shawl in the Woolly Wonka Fibers Celtic Year shawl club. And this is, I've gotten the first little bit done, and then I've done one repeat of the skull chart. So I'm not very far along at all. And this is worked with the Nimue sock from Woolly Wonka Fibers in the colorway Spiced Apple. It's beautiful. And so this is a 50% superwash merino, 50% silk. So soft. I'm knitting these on a size 6, which is a crap. What's the metric? 4 millimeter? Yeah, I think 6 is 4 millimeter because that's what gave me gauge. So, oh, and there are beads up the center, which is very fun because I finally found my tiny crochet hooks. I had to turn my office upside down, but I found them. So you can kind of see, I mean, when it's not blocked, it kind of looks like the dog's breakfast, but lace pattern in between these two garter stitch ridges is supposed to kind of look like skulls. And I'm sure when they are blocked, you'll be able to see it better. But check out the variegation. This is so pretty. And the color's pretty true. I've got lots of natural light in the dining room today. So this, what you see is what you get here. This is very true to life. So, it's good times. I haven't knit on this in probably 2 weeks, but I wanted to get it started. Because mostly, what I really, really, really want to get finished knitting-wise are my father-in-law's socks. And I still haven't finished the first one. But it has a heel flap, and it has gussets, and I turned the heel, and I'm working on the foot. So it's getting done. The pattern is Old Joe by Stephanie Pearl McPhee. Oh crap, I think these are size 1 needles. I'm magic looping them, and honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to stitching socks on double pointed needles, because with double pointed needles, I always end up getting a ladder on the sole of the foot that I just can't get rid of, and it's gone. So, yeah. No more socks on DPNs for me. And this is Blue Moon Fiber Arts Socks That Rock, lightweight in the colorway Spores, which I'm probably going to have to buy more of, and just hope like crazy that the dye lot matches close enough for government work. My father-in-law won't care. So that's what's going on the knitting front. Spinning, I'm still doing the I've been trying to do 15 minutes a day. It doesn't always work out that way, but I'm still on track to finish up this project before the quarterly theme in the Woolly Wonka Fibers craft along is over, so I'm not worried. The theme is anything craft on anything literary themed, so you could knit or crochet something in a yarn that's colorway was named for a book or a character in a book. You could knit or crochet a pattern that was inspired by a book or a character in a book. In my case, I'm spinning some wool that was dyed to evoke the book Dune, or the series Dune, which is my favorite. This is called Melange, so you can see that lovely spice haze, like people who take the spice get blue eyes. And all the lovely spice browns. Pardon my nails. So this is 100% Shetland wool, which makes me happy because I love Shetland. So this is the first 2 ounces all spun up. I'm going to spin the other 2 on a separate bobbin and then attempt to ply them together. I don't know if my bobbins are big enough to do that. But Ann P. kind of eased my fears and said, well, if it fills up, you know, just break the yarn and load a new bobbin and ply the remaining onto a second bobbin. And I thought, okay, yeah, I can do that. Okay, yeah. So, but yeah, I love this. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it when it's done. Shetland is lovely, but it's also a little scratchy. So I don't know that I would knit anything with it that would end up like on someone's neck. It might be a little scratchy for a hat, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe mitts. Maybe a hat. We'll see what I end up with and what weight yarn it's going to be. It's probably going to be a sport to worsted because I'm not a very consistent spinner, unfortunately. But yeah, love it. That's all the crafting. I'm pretty happy with the progress. I'm taking 2 classes this semester, so I have a little bit more time than I thought I would, although one of them is anatomy, so it requires a lot of attention, but not so much that I can't take little breaks here and there. So the plan for this coming month is to keep plugging along on the socks, keep spinning, keep working on red and the black, and we'll go from there. That's the plan. Trying to think what else. I have some books that I read that I wanted to talk to you about, but I'm trying to remember. Oh, I got some Happy Mail. I haven't been buying a lot of things, but I am a member of the Shawl Club, and I wanted to show you this month's colorway and show you the yarn and the other stuff I got. So the shawl is called Brigid because the Celtic festival that was yesterday, actually, in bulk, is Brigid. Brigid, who's a goddess or a saint, or I think it depends on who you ask and what religion they are, what the significance of Brigid is at this time of year. Candlemas, I think, is the other name for the holiday. So the shawl's called Brigid, and it's beautiful. Like, I want to cast this on right now. It's a crescent-shaped shawl, so it's got a lot of just plain stockinette, and then this gorgeous lace border that... but it requires 2 skeins of Nimue sock. This colorway is called Willow. It's gorgeous. This is a perfect spring green, like early spring. Love. And this yarn is so soft. I mean, I told you, it's merino and silk. It's beautiful to just touch and look at and work with. So I have a picture on my iPad that will give you a good idea of the shawl. I'm just hoping you get to see. Yeah, okay, there's not too much glare there. So that's the shawl. Who designed it? Let me look. The designer for this one is Jen Lucas of Jen Lucas Designs. And she did a beautiful job. I'm looking forward to this. Oh, for Calaveras, designer Lori Law did Calaveras. She's one of my favorite designers. I think I mentioned in my last video that Lori Law is the designer for one of my very favorite pairs of socks I ever knit, ever. Pattern's called Sleepy Hollow. So great. So other things I got that came with this, the shipment, were stitch markers, which you can never have too many of if you're me, because I'm losing them constantly. And also, and included, and I hope I remember to bring them out, They're called seed bombs. So they're, yes, here they are. So it's paper pulp with flower seeds in them, and you plant them and they grow. So it's just paper, and you can kind of see the, you see the seeds? Such a clever idea. And this is from an Etsy shop called Seed Paper Society. And the seeds include sweet alyssum, Shirley poppy, catchfly, snapdragon, Mexican torch hat, and white yarrow. Place seed bombs under a thin layer of soil in an inside planter or outside during spring through early fall. I'm thinking I'm going to plant these outside Mother's Day weekend, because here in the area where I live, that's no one puts anything in the ground before Mother's Day weekend. Yeah, keep soil moist through germination, then water plants as needed. So it seems pretty idiot-proof, and I'm on an ongoing quest to be a better gardener. So thank you, Anne. This was a treat. And I went to Seed Paper Society's website, and they have birthday cards that have a piece of paper that paper pulp, like a flat piece in different shapes that have seeds in them. So I was thinking, my youngest nephew is turning 4 in April, and I thought, you know, maybe that would be a fun thing to include with his birthday present, like get him a birthday card that has a piece that he can, you know, he can plant. I mean, he's 4. He'd think that was cool. So maybe he can grow something. Anyway, just putting that out there. Oh, and one last thing of Happy Mail. I got myself a pattern because I was shopping for a friend who I'm going to send a little care package to here this week. And no pattern should travel alone. And I saw bowl full of Scaries from Plum Street. Scary 2. I'd never seen Scary 2. I own Scary 1. It's the little witch with the cauldron and the coral snake border and the trees. Scary 2 is adorable and not really scary. It's a little squirrel making friends with a blackbird, and there are some pumpkins and acorns and oak leaves. So yeah, that came home with me. Alrighty. Yeah, that's all the crafty stuff. Moving some stuff around here. Let's talk books, shall we? So the first thing I finished in the new year was this book of short stories called Out of the Blue, and it's short fiction from Iceland. And I'll give it about 3.5 to 4 stars. There were a few in here that I really loved, a couple that I was just like, and a few that were just, yeah, okay. It's interesting. It was interesting from just I don't want to say sociological, anthropological perspective, the way the stories are, because they're all very slice of life. Each like vignettes, and each one of them at the end of it makes you think, well, what happened next? Like, and then what happened? I don't want to say they're not satisfactory necessarily, but there's a sense that there's the strong sense that you're only seeing a part of this story, and this story's continuing, but the author's just showing you this part, and you can either infer or not. So I would recommend, if that sounds kind of like maybe I would to you, I wouldn't recommend necessarily purchasing it. If your library carries this, or you can get it on interlibrary loan, it's certainly worth a look. And there were a couple of authors in here that I'm interested in seeking out longer works of theirs. And it's cool because in the back there's a contributors section. So the authors are listed, and there's a little biographical blurb, which includes other things they've written, like other short story collections, novels, things like that. So that's handy if you read something you really like the author's style, the way the author tells a story, you can look them up and seek them out elsewhere. So yeah, I would say definitely check it out at your library, read some, and then, you know, if you don't like it, send it back. I'm not sorry I read it. And then I listened to, on Audible, a book by Agatha Christie called The Mysterious Affair at Styles, which is Hercule Poirot's very first appearance in Agatha Christie's world. And I enjoyed it very much. I love Hercule Poirot, although in Britain, people pronounce it Poirot, and I don't know which is correct. Because Poirot, the character, pronounces it Poirot. Never mind that people in Belgium don't speak French as their first language. I'm not sure why Christie decided that Poirot is a Belgian whose native language is French. I'm sure there's a reason. If you know, please tell me. But anyway, it was a heck of a lot of fun. I love Agatha Christie, and this particular audiobook was narrated by Hugh Fraser, who plays Captain Hastings in the miniseries that started in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And he reads so well, and yeah, I thought it was great. David Suchet is the only Poirot that I acknowledge personally. I heard that John Malkovich is going to be playing him in, I think they're redoing the ABC Murders, and I respect John Malkovich as an actor, but no. What are you thinking? No. God, why? Anyway, so The Mysterious Affair at Styles. It's a Christie cozy mystery. You know, elderly lady, wealthy British lady who has a manor house in the rural south of England and lives with, you know, children and servants and daughters-in-law and husband, and she is poisoned, and who done it? Captain Hastings. So because it's the first in the series, Hastings is there because he's just home from the front in World War I. And he's staying at this house because he's friends with one of the dead lady's children. And it just so happens in the town that's closest to this house, a bunch of Belgian refugees, including Poirot, are staying, and so Poirot jumps in and helps figure out who done it. So I'm not telling the story very well, but at the same time, it's Agatha Christie and it's Hercule Poirot, so you kind of know how the it like the mystery solving part is pretty uniform. It's just the setting and the victim and the cast of characters that are different. But I liked it a lot, so I think I might listen to some more in the future. Although I think my next audiobook is going to be some Lewis Carroll, both Alice books, because I've never read them, and I see quite a few Alice in Wonderland themed cross-stitch charts that I think are very beautiful, but I don't feel right stitching them having not read the books. So I want to do that and see if I like them before I decide to stitch some Alice. What else? So I'm reading right now, when I have time, I'm reading a couple of books. One of which is very interesting, but I need to read slowly because it's history. And another one I need to read very slowly because it's very important and you need to chew on it. And I was just talking to Jessie Marie about this yesterday. This is a book by author Robin DiAngelo, and it's called White Fragility: Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. And if you are white, you need to read this book. Especially if you are white and you consider yourself woke or progressive or an ally, then you really need to read this book. I'm not very far. I mean, it's not a very long book at all, but it's very chewy. Like you have to kind of read a chapter and then sit with it and reflect and kind of work on yourself, which is not easy to do, but it's necessary. And when I'm finished it, I will talk more. But you should read this. Yeah, a necessary book for all people invested in social change. So the author is white. She's an academic lecturer, and author has been a consultant and trainer on issues of racial and social justice for more than 20 years. She formerly served as a tenured professor of multicultural education at Westfield State University. Yeah. One thumb up at least, but I'm not very far. But I think it's going to be, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 2 thumbs up. Every person I've spoken to who's read it has said it's an absolute game changer. And that we all need to read it. So that's what I'm doing. And lastly, I'm reading this book. Ann P. actually suggested I would like this book, and Josh must have overheard that Flosstube video that I was watching because I got it for Hanukkah. It's called A Midwife's Tale. It's the life of Martha Ballard based on her diary. And it is a book about a midwife named Martha Ballard who lived in Maine from around the beginning of America as we know it, the United States, through her death in 1812. And it's a really fascinating account of just the life of women in early America, because we don't have a lot of primary sources regarding what women did in early America. It's generally just, you know, the boys' club. So what this author has done is she's included at the beginning of every chapter are excerpts or I'm sorry, diary entries. And then after that, the author expounds on what was actually what was going on in the town, what life was like. And it's fascinating stuff. And when I say it's a diary, it's not really a diary. It's not like, dear diary, you know, today I was pompous and my sister was crazy. No, it's more like, you know, example. You know, clear morning. I pulled flax in the afternoon. I pulled flax in the forenoon. Rain afternoon. I am very much fatigued. Hannah is washing, Dolly is weaving, and I was called to deliver a baby at 11 o'clock in the evening. The 21st, a rainy day. I have been at home knitting. I feel you, sister. It's more of a day book. Like, this is what happened. I attended this birth. At home, we're growing this. We're weaving this. We're knitting this. And so it's really fascinating. But I'm only that how far. But I'm really enjoying it, and just from a perspective of someone who's been a birth worker and who is potentially an aspiring midwife, it's really interesting to see what's changed and what hasn't. In the introduction, there's a story about how she had to cross the river. So her town in Maine is bisected by a river, and it was a logging community. So a lot of the time during warm weather, you know, there were logs floating in the river for the lumber mills. And in the winter, it was often frozen, so you could cross that way. She was crossing the river to get to a berth in the middle of the night. She fell through the ice to her waist, climbed out, flagged down someone on a horse to take her to the rest of the way to the berth, walked in sopping wet, delivered the baby anyway. And I thought, well, yeah, that's a midwife. Like, I know people like that, like right now in 2019. So that was, that made me smile. And also, it's interesting the role of doctors in childbirth in that period, how doctors would occasionally come in and have a look and maybe help if there was a problem, but for the most part, that was what women did for other women. Unless there was a dire emergency who needed someone with medical expertise, and medical expertise was probably a lot of what would be considered today quackery, frankly. But for the most part, doctors stayed out of the way. In more urban areas, there was talk of, you know, birth being a medical thing, and a doctor and not a group of women should be present. But in rural areas, especially, like, that hung on a long time. Which I don't think, I mean, I could talk about this, you know, just my opinions on things for hours, but I won't. But anyway, Anne, thank you so much for the recommendation. I'm geeking out like crazy, and I love it. And thank you, Josh, for eavesdropping on Anne recommending this and getting it for me for Hanukkah. So that's what I got for you today. I had something I wanted to... Oh, Stitch Mania is coming. And follow my train of logic. So I've been watching Flosstube, not as much as I would like, but some. And Coffee Stitcher, Garrett, and excuse me, Lisa Bergen, somebody else who else, if you're watching, tell me, they've been doing Mirabilia Mondays. Like on Mondays, they stitch on either a Mirabilia or the Mirabilia that they are focusing on. And I like the idea, but I really don't think I would be satisfied doing that, just because I don't think one day a week is really going to give me the progress that makes me satisfied personally. And I had been thinking about Stitch Mania because I'm not having any new starts, and I was thinking, well, I could do Monogamous Mania. I was thinking Monogamous Mania, and then I heard about Mirabilia Mondays, and I thought, Monogamous Mirabilia Mania. That's what I'm going to do. I only have one Mirabilia going, which is my Mermaid of Atlantis. But yeah, for the entire month of May, I am only going to work on my Mermaid of Atlantis. I should get a fair amount done on her. Yeah, because classes are done the first week of May. I'm only going to have one final. Yeah. I should get a lot of progress done on her. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to be doing Monogamous Mirabilia Mania. If you would like to join me, feel free. I don't have a hashtag. I'm just throwing it out there because it's probably just going to be just me. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is everything. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me today. I appreciate it. I appreciate your comments and your support, even though I'm notorious about getting back to you. I'm going to try to get better about that. I know I say that every time, but I mean it this time. So, yeah, if you're new here, hi, welcome. I hope you come back. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. I love you. And I hope wherever you are in the world, you're doing well. And take care of yourself, and I'll catch you around the internet. Okay.